First, though, how much do you reckon your local councillor should be paid? Well, today, Lincolnshire County Council members will be deciding just that. They'll vote on whether or not to give themselves a big increase in their allowances, the allowances they get for being a councillor. Now, some are objecting, saying no one should make money from the local public service. Others, though, say it's increasingly hard to tempt ordinary men and women into the job, and that it should be available to everyone. Here's BBC Radio Lincolnshire's political reporter Sharon Edwards with an allowances roundup.
Today, the basic allowance paid to all county councillors could go up by £2,000 to just over £10,000 a year. The council leader is currently entitled to just over £20,000 on top, and under these reforms that would rise by more than half to £32,000 a year. Raising allowances is controversial, but it's also true that the majority of councillors are white middle-class men well over the age of 40. Recently, the City of Lincoln Council has made a point of trying to encourage more women, younger people and ethnic minorities to stand for election. But it admits that the remuneration on offer can be a stumbling block. Steve Swain from the council.
There is a reliance on time off from an employer, and some employers may not be able to give that commitment. And also, the other side to that is that individual may not be able to take the time because it has the knock-on effect. It reduces the wage going into their home.
Being a councillor is traditionally seen as a voluntary job, but there's also pressure to raise allowances to allow a wider section of people to enter public life.
Let's speak to someone who did take the plunge and become a councillor. At just 21, Robin Hunter-Clarke is one of the country's youngest councillors. He was elected onto the county council last year representing UKIP, but he'd already chalked up several years' service on Skegness Town Council. Morning, Robin.
Good morning, Scott.
What attracted you to be a councillor? Why, at your age, because as you heard from Sharon there, it's generally people a lot older who go into it. Why did you go, I want to be a councillor?
Well, I just wanted to change things in my local town. I wanted to represent the people, particularly young people, when I first got involved when I was 18. And I never thought about the money at all. It was a voluntary job. It was something that you did for your community. So, I'm totally against any rise in the allowances today.
And in terms of the time you have to spend as a councillor, because are you still going through university at the moment, all right?
Yes, I finish in May.
You finish in May. I mean, there's a lot of time involved. It can, I've heard some councillors say, it can be like a full-time job. It
can be, and it is. It's a way of life, but I'm not out of pocket, and I don't think any councillor can say they're out of pocket. We are reimbursed through the allowances system. It's very fair, and, whereas we've got, lots of people in the country suffering, having to choose whether to heat their homes or to eat, I think it's totally immoral for us to be even contemplating taking a 25% increase, 56% increase for the leader. I think it's totally immoral. Well,
the thing is, I think I'm right in saying at the minute you and other councillors who are not on committees or have special roles, you get, £8,000 a year to cover your costs, is that right?
We do, and it's a lot lower, you're right, than the lot of the Conservatives get. You're absolutely right.
Well, they're on the executives and things like that, so that's why they would get more. But is that enough for you to cover what you do? You have to do a lot of travelling. I presume you spend a lot of time on the phone. It could become expensive, couldn't it?
It can, but as I say, I don't think I'm out of pocket by doing it. I mean, time-wise, obviously, but in terms of financial cost, I'm certainly not out of pocket, and we shouldn't be. It's only fair that people shouldn't be, because they're giving up their time and their jobs to go and attend these meetings and represent the people.
What about this suggestion, though, that if we want to attract councillors, if we want to make it so that anyone could be a councillor, no matter what the background is, no matter where they've come from, what they've done in the past, then some of the things being offered at the moment are not enough. Because it's not the councillors who are saying this. This is an independent panel that's looked at this in depth and said, actually, Lincolnshire County councillors are paid some of the lowest in the country. You need to put the allowances up.
Well, there is an answer. The answer is that we get rid of a lot of councillors and pay them all a proper wage. There is an answer.
Well, you think we've got too many councillors?
I absolutely believe there is, yes. But currently it's a voluntary position, and that's the way it's always been. But if you want to pay people a proper wage to do the job, which we could do, then what you'd have to do is get rid of a lot of the councillors, get rid of the district councils, and have a proper local authority accountable to the people.
Do you think some people might be put off who think, well, I would like to be a councillor, but I don't think I've got the time, I don't think I've I could afford it.
That's the argument for that. There's certainly a lot of people that will think like that. I absolutely agree, yeah.
So do you today, you'll vote against the idea of these allowances being increased?
I will be, because I just think it's immoral for councillors to even contemplate having an increase when, a lot of people in the country are suffering. I think this should be done independently. I know it's been recommended independently, but, MPs don't vote on their salaries. It's all done independently, whether we like that or not. And I think that should be the same thing with councillors, really. For us to actually go in there and vote ourselves an increase is completely immoral, completely wrong.
All right, well, good to talk to you this morning. Robin Hunter-Clarke is at 21, one of the youngest councillors in the country. You heard what he had to say. You'll hear some different views on this a little bit later on. Let me tell you what the leader of the council, Martin Hill, is saying. He isn't going to take his particular rise. His would be more than 50%. He says he's not going to take it, but he says he will vote for the increases to go through, because he says not everyone is in a position to do that, and he believes it should be a personal decision for each councillor to make as to whether they can afford to do it or not. Interesting one. We'll continue to debate it after 8 o'clock this morning.